Ben Mears has been away too long. And now at last, he's come home.
My men fought at Valley Forge.
Daddy, come back safe.
Home to the childhood memories, to the old familiar faces, to a life unmolested by time.
And with your saints, let him rejoice in your presence forever. We ask it through Christ our Lord, amen.
Home to Salem's Lot, a town too good to be true.
What was that?
Did you happen to notice the time when the boys left?
We shouldn't have gone through the woods.
It's a shortcut.
Well, they should have been here half an hour ago.
Wait! Danny, wait!
Something is happening. Something terrible.
Henry! Where's Ralphie? Ralph.
Where's your brother?
First a kid disappears, then this. You're not leaving Salem's Lot, are you?
I'm not leaving. Don't you understand what's happening?
Do you?
Yes, I do. It's in the Marston house. Good evening. I dreamed. You slept there all night?
Yeah. A little tired. Didn't sleep much last night. I was dreaming. Somebody out there.
Sweet dreams.
I let him in.
Oh, it's only all just happened
Since I came here.
It wasn't a dream.
Stop, holy man! You can do nothing against the master.
They're breeding on one another. The vampires are creating vampires.
The master wants you.
It's a geometric progression. 2 times 2 times 4 times 8.
There's a dead man upstairs.
Bill!
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil.
Look at me.
Ned Tibbett's body has disappeared from the morgue.
Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me.
Bill! Ben Susan's in there. Run! No! Look at him!
Stephen King, the best-selling author of Carrie and The Shining, takes you on a startling journey to Salem's Lot.
I forgot to mute my mic. Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and I haven't got my webcam on either, have I? There we go. So professional. Hello, Joshua. Welcome to the show. Yes, we're doing Salem's Lot this week. The amazing TV miniseries. It's hard to believe it were made for TV because it's brilliant. And I forgot to start my ambience going in the background there. There we go. Found this on YouTube. It's I forgot his name now. Mark Petrie's bedroom, isn't it? You can see the Wolfman there, and over in the corner, can you just see him there? Over in the corner, there's Mike Ryerson rocking backwards and forth. Cool. I'm gonna have to change it though because it only lasts an hour. Anyway, hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and it's Friday night appointment with Fear. And as I said, we're doing Salem's Lot. What's that? You're going to follow up with the Redux. Which one's that? They were a Return to Salem's Lot, weren't they? Which were absolute garbage. And then they did another one, didn't they, with... I forgot his name. It had him from Blade Runner as Kurt Barlow. Rutger Hauer, didn't it? But I've never seen it. I've never seen that one. But I've heard it's not very good. But they're supposed to be doing a remake, aren't they? A movie remake that's going to be hard R, apparently. Anyway, let's get the film up and then we'll go through it. As usual, I'll not be just playing the film. I'll be going through it in a series of stills and we'll be talking about it. A bit of info about the film before we start. I'm calling it a film because it's like a 3-hour movie. It was in 2 parts, wasn't it, originally? They did release like a movie version of it, which were like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes or whatever. But I've never actually seen that version. I've only watched the 3-hour version. But anyway, as might be expected with Hollywood, it's supposed to be set in New England, but it's as far away from New England as you can get in America. It was filmed in Northern California in the town of Ferndale. If you want to, there's a good video on YouTube by the Grim Life Collective where they go and look at the filming locations for Salem's lot. I've put the link in the description, and so they visited Ferndale and looked at the filming locations, and they do some comparisons, and it's a really good video. The good of the Grim Life Collective. So there is that. Anyway, let's just get the film up, whatever. Wherever I put it. Salem's lot, there you are. Right, off we go. Off we jolly well go. Right, we begin in, I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Chimico or Zimico? I don't know. Guatemala. It'll come on. Will the... See, it's doing it bloody one at a time. I want it to do like 10 seconds, but it's just doing like 1 frame at a time, isn't it? Never mind. So we start there in... is it going to say it? Can I get to it? Oh, for God's sake. Oh, it's crashing. Oh, no, it ain't. I thought it was going to crash then. My video player. By the way, I've got this. I own this on Amazon, what they call it, Amazon Prime Video. And I was going to play it through that. But it wouldn't do it. It just showed a blank screen. I've no idea why. Well, I've not got my chat box up, have I? There we go. Get some chat up. 2004 with Rob Lowe, that's the fella, Rutger Hauer, and a lot of other great actors, but it definitely fell flat. Like I say, I've not seen it. I've not heard good things about it, but so I'll just stick with this one, which is amazing in my opinion. Anyway, we start off, we see Lance Kerwin as Mark Petrie. He died recently, didn't he? It's very sad. And David Soul. Oh, there we go. Oh, you can't see for my fat head. Hang on, let me get rid of myself for a moment. Hey, dear. Where are we? There we are. There we go. Is it Zimico or Chimico? I have no idea. Anyway, or Himiko. I don't know. Guatemala. I don't know. It's obviously just a still photograph of some church somewhere in Central or South America. So, and we start off with David Soul as Ben Mears, and oh, for God's sake, and Lance Kerwin as Mark Petrie. They're in this church, and they're getting holy water, putting in little blue bottles. They must have this supply of these little blue bottles. I don't know where they get them from, but seems to have plenty. Collecting the holy water, and as they're walking out, it starts glowing in a cool, 80s special effects sort of way. And they say, "Another one's found us." And Mark says, "Do we have to go? We have to go further." And David Soul says, "No, not yet." And then we get the credits. The credits come on. There we go. Showing the Marston house and the moon. And over the credits, we'll learn who's in it. I'll go through the cast list before we continue. As I said, we've got David Soul as Ben Mears, the late great James Mason as Richard Straker, who's a proper good baddie in this. As I said, Lance Kerwin as Mark Petrie, Bonnie Bedelia as Susan Norton, who you may know from Die Hard. Lou Ayres as Jason Burke, who I know from Battlestar Galactica, who played President Adar in the original Battlestar Galactica. But he's been in lots of other stuff as well. Ed Flanders as Bill Norton, Dr. Bill Norton. Fred Willard as Larry Crockett. He's been in loads of stuff as Fred Willard, but Most recently, for us geeks, he were in Stargate SG-1. He played Vala Maldoran's father. Julie Cobb as Bonnie Sawyer, Boom Boom Bonnie. Julie Cobb is Lee Jacobs' daughter. So there you go. Kenneth Macmillan as Constable Parkins Gillespie. The only other thing I've seen him in other things, but I know him most. I think he was in It, the 1990 It, I think, but I could be wrong. But he also played Baron Harkonnen in David Lynch's Dune. I think that's him. Anyway, I'm going to have to check now. I'm just going off the top of my head. Let's have a look. Filmography. See if it's... Yes, Dune. There we go, Dune. And what are you in It? Stephen King's It. Does it say? No, it doesn't say there. But I think you were in that. But I could be wrong. Who else? We've got Jeffrey Lewis, Juliette Lewis's dad, as Mike Ryerson, Barney McFadden as Ned Tibbetts, who I just think's Cozy Powell, Marie Windsor as Eva Miller, Bonnie Bartlett as Ann Norton, George Dzunza as Cully Sawyer, who's been in loads of stuff, but again, being geeky, I know him from Stargate SG-1, where he played the semi-ascended Goa'uld Anubis. Elisha Cook Jr. as Weasel Phillips. Clarissa Kay as Marjorie Glick. Clarissa Kay at the time was James Mason's wife. Ned Wilson as Henry Glick, and various other people. There we go. That's a quick roundup of the cast. Right, off we go. Here we go. It's David Soul. So he's arrived in Salem's lot. Let me go back a little bit. I've probably gone too far. You know what I'm like. Here we go. He arrives in Salem's lot. His car pulls up. Look, there we go. It's doing one frame at a time. When I want it to do like 10 seconds, it doesn't want to know. But he pulls up, and we know it's supposed to be New England. Oh, for crying out loud. There we go. He pulls up in his Jeep, but we see it's got Colorado plates. Oh, you can't see it from me again. I'm always it way, aren't I? There we go. It's got Colorado plates, so it's come a long way, and he's come to write a book. In this, he was born in Salem's lot, Jerusalem's lot. But in the book, I don't think he was born there. I read the book years and years ago when I was a kid, and he wasn't born there. He went to live with his aunt, didn't he? In the book. Why are there no chats appearing in this chat box? I don't know, but never mind. So he arrives in Salem's lot. The first thing he does, he stops and has a good old gander at the Marston House, which is an old house on a hill outside town. Supposed to be a haunted house. But interesting fact about this, he sees James Mason come out. That's Richard Straker. He comes out of the house and they give each other a good looking over. But the interesting thing about that house is instead of just finding a house that looked like the Marston house, you'd think there'd be a few, wouldn't you? Spooky old houses. But obviously they couldn't find one, not in Ferndale anyway. So they just built a facade on top of an existing house. So there you go. I think they paid quite a lot of money as well to the owners of the house to do that. So he arrives in town. It's a small town America. I think is going into now to Ned, not Ned, him, Fred Willard's, Crockett's, Larry Crockett's realtor's office. So he's going in there and he's asking, he wants somewhere to stay in Salem's lot, and he wants to know about the house on the hill just outside town. And he says, the Marston house, it's sold. So ends up sending him to Eva Miller's boarding house. So that's his introduction to Larry Crockett. And there's Boom Boom Bonnie. They're having an affair, which comes to a conclusion about halfway through. And a bit of domestic violence. Can't condone that. Here we go. There's James Mason looking from the shop. Straker and Barlow, who we don't see for quite a while, are opening up an antique shop in town. So that's what's happening with them. Anyway, so Larry Crockett goes to see Mr. Straker. He's getting the shop ready. And Straker tells him he's got... he wants 2 men to go and collect a sideboard from Boston Docks. So, a Hepplewhite, he says. And I can't do James Mason impressions. He's got one of those voices that, you got to like... I can't do it. He's not from Yorkshire. Although I think he might be, actually. I think he's from Leeds, isn't he? Hang on, let me just check. Is James Mason a Yorkshireman? I think he is. I'm going to have a look now. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere before. Oh no, he's from Huddersfield, which is even closer to me. So there we go. So he's a Yorkshireman. Yay! So I sound just like him, don't I? Like I sound just like Patrick Stewart, who's from like 2 miles away from me. Anyway, where have I put this film? There we go. So he's got to send 2 men to the docks to collect a sideboard, which turns out not to be a sideboard. And then Ben's getting settled in Eva Miller's boarding house. We see he's got a little typewriter there, getting himself ready to write his book about the Marston house. This is Eva Miller, who's still a very handsome woman, even though she's advancing in years. She's asking, why he's come to town, and he says, I've come to write a book. And he says, why here? We don't get a lot of visitors. We don't get a lot of strangers. And he says, I'm not a stranger. So there you go. In this, he was born in Salem's lot, but in the book he wasn't. But he spent some years there as a kid. Anyway, just decides to go... Oh, there we go. The chat's decided to appear, look. Where's that? I think it's their Londonized training that killed their accents. Yours is the superior intellect, indeed. Yep. Yeah. Well, it's because they go to, they do all this acting training, don't they, at RADA and the Royal Shakespeare Company, and they lose their accents, don't they? Apart from Sean Bean, he kept his. He's from Yorkshire, and he's kept his accent. Good for him. These men are thirsty. Get the ale out, like he said in Lord of the Rings. But I'm getting off topic. Anyway, Ben decides to just go for a walk in the woods or in the park or whatever, and he comes across Susan Norton, and she's reading his book, coincidentally. And he goes over and picks it up and says, you shouldn't hold a book like that. You'll break the binding. And she says, it's you, isn't it? And so that's how they strike up a little romance almost immediately. So next we see is having dinner at her parents' house. So anyway, she's the daughter of the town's doctor, Bill Norton. Now here we go. And then somebody... Adverts, look. Bloody adverts. Unbelievable. Oh, it's going off now. I hate adverts, I do. I should pay, shouldn't I, for YouTube Premium, but I'm not. I'm not paying a tenner a month just to get rid of adverts. Anyway, Ben, he goes out at night now to look at the Marston house. Obsessed much, you could say that. So he's having a good look at the Marston house at night this time, and then he turns round and comes face to face with Richard Straker, gives him a fright, and goes, ah! By the way, I better make sure we're still going, aren't we? Yeah, excellent connection, it says. And James Mason just says, good evening, and walks on by. So that's their first meeting. They do speak again later on. So in he goes to the Marston house. We see the interior of it later. Right, so off he goes. What's he doing next? This is Larry Crockett. I think leaving the office. I think there. Yeah. Oh yeah, because hang on, where are we? See, I've gone too far. It's closing the office, and what's the face? Boom Boom Bonnie, Bonnie Sawyer keeps calling him honey and stuff like it, and Larry Crockett keeps telling her, stop saying that. One of these days you'll forget and say it in front of somebody because it's supposed to be a secret. But I think everybody in town knows that she's having an affair with Larry Crockett, and her husband knows because he sets something up soon. So she sets off home, and Larry Crockett gets into his car, and just as he's getting into his car, we see Weasel Phillips, played by Elisha Cook Jr. Here we go. And he calls out to him, says, "Getting warmer." So he says that to him. But then Weasel's interrupted, there we go, by the town constable. There we go. Constable Gillespie. And he asks Weasel to keep an eye on Ben Mears. And he keeps saying, why? And Gillespie says, murdered 18 people. Every one of them an old man who kept asking, what's he done? So he's lying, obviously. So he says, just keep an eye on him, because he must sit there quite a lot. And there's a scene later on where Ben Mears and Jason, whatever his name is, I've forgotten, hang on. Where are we? Jason Burke, are sitting in a restaurant, and there's a man at the back of the restaurant staring at them all the time. And I don't know if it's like an extra who's just looking at the camera, or if it's supposed to be Weasel Phillips. I'll point it out when we get to it. When we get there. Right, this is... I forgot the name of his dog. I can't remember. In the book, it had white flashes over its eyes, and the vampires don't like that for some reason, so they kill the dog. And this dog gets killed as well. It's Mike Ryerson's dog, by the way. So, Boom Boom Bonnie arrives back home with George Dzunza as Cullen Sawyer, who's owns a trucking company. And you think, how the hell did they get together? Maybe he was a bit more, a bit less slobby when in his younger days. Because you get the impression maybe they were high school sweethearts or something like that. And as he's got older, he's not aged gracefully, has he? I can't say anything. I'm the same. I'm a big fat get. Anyway, she comes in and he's just sitting drinking beer and watching TV, and she's intimating that she wants a bit of action, so he had to get drunk. So that's what's going on in the Sawyer household. Meanwhile, Ben, is not wasting any time. He's got his feet under the table at the Norton house. So they've just had dinner, and so he gets on well with Bill. Now, as I said, they're all good characters in this. They're all really good characters, well acted and well portrayed. And Bill Norton's a very likeable character. A good, honest, I suppose, small town doctor. Says what he feels. And that were him. He was just describing Eva Miller. They used to watch her sashaying up the street, and then she married Weasel Phillips, who just came up to her on her, and they got divorced, but he still lives with her. This is Susan's mum asking, what's he doing in town? And he's writing a book. And she says, what's it about? He says, it's about two men. And she says, not one of those. I don't know what she might mean. It's the 70s. Meanwhile, back at the boarding house, Weasel, he was like trying to read the paper from Ben's typewriter and making a total mess of it. And Eva comes in and stops him, gives him a good slap around the face. But then they read his stuff anyway. And reads his notepad and says something about a boy and a house. And then she reads what he'd typed on the page. And it says it's written very well, but it isn't if you listen to it. Hang on, I'll see if I can play it. Hang on. See if it'll let me.
A boy in a house. The house was a monument to evil, Sitting there all these years, holding the essence of evil in its smoldering bones.
Right, it's real good. No, that's not really that good, is it? But never mind. Never mind. Not exactly Stephen King. I see bloody subtitles are staying on now, aren't they? Tell you myself. There we go. Anyway, Ben and Susan decide to go to the lake. Why? He learns that Susan had a boyfriend called Ned Tebbits. Because Susan's mum liked Ned Tebbits, but she's not going out with him anymore. But Ned Tebbits doesn't know that yet. But anyway, they decide to go to the lake and have a bit of a snog at the lake. There we go. And everybody in town finds out about it somehow. They always say, everybody knows that you were at the lake. Oh, crikey. I wouldn't want to live there. Anyway, next day, by the way, this is the view from Ben's flat. What is it? His room at Eva Miller's. That's his view. And here we go. I don't know what paper he's using. Let's see. Does it show it? No, it doesn't. Hang on. Let's go back a little bit. It's like he's typing on bloody tissue paper or something, or paper towels. It doesn't look like typing paper. It's gone too bloody far now. Eh, dear. By the way, I forgot to mute it. All I want is a bloody shot of him with his... Go on, that's it. Type, then rip it out, screw it up. Go on, do it. Do it, man. Do it. Come on, Hutch. Take that paper out. See, he's not going to do it, is he? Anyway, scrunches it up and it looks like bloody tissue paper or something. Doesn't look like typing paper. You going to take it out? No, have a drink of your bloody coffee then, crying out loud. Then he's watching... You know, 'cause he's obsessed with the Marston House, and he's watching James Mason come out, Tory Straker, into his big black car. Because, as I said, he's obsessed with the Marston House. Then what happens? Oh, that's where he's telling Bonnie to not call him, honey and stuff like that. I think this is where Mr. Crockett is told to go to get some men to go to Boston Docks. I think that this is that bit. Yes, it is. This is it. So he's going to use Cullen Sawyer. Going to get him to go collect a Hepplewhite sideboard from Boston Docks. Anyway, back at the school. They're rehearsing the annual play. It's all about the American Revolution, that thing that went on over there, a couple of 100 years ago. It was something and nothing. And they're rehearsing that. I think there's the Glick boys, there's Danny and Ralphie Glick and a couple of others. And this is Mark Petrie, who's leading the play, being the narrator, and he wrote it just as Ben Mears wrote it back when he was at school in Salem's lot. But then we learn he left when he was 11, so he wrote the school play when he was 11. Crikey, he must have been a prodigy. Anyway, so he sneaks up. I don't know who these are, these people. He goes and sneaks up on Jason Burke and then introduces himself and says, I'm Ben Mears, you probably don't remember me. And says, oh, yes, of course I do, I've read your books, blah, blah, blah. So, they agree to have dinner together. So it's another friend he's made. Right, so anyway, Cullen Sawyer goes to see Mike Ryerson at the cemetery. Because Mike Ryerson's the grave digger and all that. And drives the hearse. And there's with his dog. What do they call his dog now? No, I can't remember. I've just finished watching this, half an hour ago. My memory. anyway, he's there with his dog. Cullen Sawyer says, how do you want to earn $50? And they've got to go, he's going to go and collect, he wants them, him and somebody else, to go and collect the sideboard from Boston Docks. He can't do it himself because he's got something planned, and we find out what that is. So he says, $50. He says, that's for two of you. So that's in 1979 when $50 were probably a lot of money. Right, so next up, Ben meets Susan outside school. I think she's a teacher at the school, isn't she? I don't know what she's teaching, because she were in, maybe it's art. It's probably art, isn't it? Because she were some sort of designer, wasn't she? In New York, until she got laid off and went back home. So yeah, she's probably an art teacher. She looks the sort, doesn't she? Anyway, Ben's meeting her after school, and but Ned Tebbits is there, watching from his van. There we go. Cozy Powell. Be drumming. Ned Tebbits, plumbing contractor. That's his new series. Starring, I forgot his name already. What's his name? Barney McFadden. This is the first. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia link. Not all the other actors, most of them anyway, apart from there's a couple of them, but they all have Wikipedia links. But Barney McFadden doesn't. Poor fella. He should have been Cozy Powell. He'd have got. But Cozy Powell's got a Wikipedia link. Anyway, he's watching, and Susan goes over to talk to him, and telling her that it's over, and so he drives off in a huff. What's happening here? Oh, this is bloody subtitles coming on. Never mind. Cullen Sawyer's telling Bonnie that he's got all this stuff to do. He's got to go to the docks and do all this stuff, and he'll be back, after 10 or whatever. So off he goes. So she thinks the coast is clear to have some hanky-panky with Larry Crockett. So off he goes. He gets a telling off from Parkins Gillespie here for double parking his truck. But, he says, sorry, I had to, I got to say goodbye to my wife. That's Straker watching as Cullen drives off. Right, so anyway, it's going to be Ned Tebbits and Mike Ryerson are going to drive over to Boston Docks to get the sideboard, and he's telling Mike's telling Ned all about on the way. There we go. He's telling him all about what Cullen's got in store for Larry Crockett, and Ned says, well, what's he going to do? And Mike says, well, what would you do if you had a 12 gauge in your garage? So I was going to get his shotgun out. Right, so Jason, he said Jason Bourne then, Jason Burke and Ben are having dinner. So that's, what's the adverts again? Bloody hell, I'm going to get rid of this one. Bloody adverts. Tell you what, we'll have that one, eh? We'll have that one. Not any adverts on that. There we go. Are you scared? Going to be seeing that out of the corner of my eye all bloody night now. Anyway, Cullen is waiting by the cemetery, where he dropped his truck off, and Mike's dog's barking at him. I wish I could remember the name of the dog. No, can't remember. His dog's barking at him, and Cullen says, shut up, and he throws a beer can at it. But it keeps barking, and then you hear it yelping, and then it stops barking, and Cullen thinks, bloody hell, I'm out of here. So he scarpers. There we go, that's what we see, what's happened to the dog. It's being got by the railings or something. I don't know what. I'm presuming that it's Straker that's killed the dog. I'm presuming, because it's obviously not Barlow, because he's not arrived yet. is still at Boston Docks. Spoilers. Here we go. They've arrived at Boston Docks with for this big trunk or whatever it is. Barlow and Straker, Antique, Salem's Lot, Maine, USA. So that to get that on the back of the truck, and Ned points out that it's freezing. It's really cold. Well, that's what he says. He says it's really cold. Is this? So that's spooky. So they get it on. They get it on with the noisiest tail lift in the universe. They get it up there, and as they're driving, for some reason, it's really cold in the truck because it's the undead, obviously. And for some reason it's sliding towards them. I don't know why, but it is the case, the whatever it is, the crate. It's a crate, isn't it? That's what it is. I'm telling you, the crate's sliding towards them. So they're getting on edge. So they're nearly there. So anyway, this is Bonnie waiting for Larry to arrive. She's got a 70s sexy gear on, a crushed velvet. Whatever it is. That telly. That's a cool telly. Anyway, she's waiting. She's saying sweet nothings down the phone to Larry. So anyway, he comes over in a bit. Mark's practicing. He's in his bedroom practicing his lines for the school play, and he's saying it very loud. And his mother comes and says, "Will you keep it down? Your father's trying to do his taxes." This is when I think we find out that Mark's into horror things. He's got lots of horror posters and models and stuff like that. I won't be able to sleep in that bedroom, I tell you that for now. I love my horror stuff, but I don't surround myself with it. That's freaking me out. Just out the corner of my eye. Anyway, but he's a bit of a girly swat, he's done his homework and stuff, But and he says the Glick boys are coming over to practice for the play. Anyway, meanwhile, Ben and Jason are having their dinner, and they're talking about the Marston house, and Ben tells him that as a kid he went up there on a dare. It's actually a really good scene, a really well-told tale of terror that Ben went through. And he says, I went up there on the dare, and he went inside, and Jason says, "What did you see?" And he says, "Ghosts, everything." And then he says, "I don't know what I saw. I saw Hubie Marston, who were one of the previous owners, not the builder of the house, but one of the previous owners, who had hanged himself in the house, and he saw him hanging in the house, and he said, his face bloated and his hands livid. And then he opened his eyes and stared at him, and he ran from the house." And I think that's out of the book. I'm sure I remember that being in the book. But I think in the book, I'm sure he found him in a closet, hanging in a closet, I think. But I could be wrong. Like I say, it's a long time since I've read the book. I'm not a huge fan of Stephen King books, to be honest. I've read it. I've read Salem's Lot, and I've read it, and that's it. That's all I've read of Stephen King books. I'm not a huge fan, to be honest. I think he goes on a bit. We have to know everything about every person in the town or whatever, and it drives me nuts. Anyway, so he does that scene. So, and he thinks the Marston house is evil in its bones, in its stones and wooden beams, and because of the previous people who lived there, the builder of the house, murdered his family or whatever. Hubie Marston's wife and family died under mysterious circumstances, and then Hubie Marston came to Salem's Lot, and the small boys in the town started to disappear. And then Hubie Marston, killed himself, hanged himself, and he's saying, if a house is evil, can an evil house attract evil men? And then Jason says, "Well, if that's the case, why did it attract you? Are you evil?" That's what he's basically saying. But of course, Ben Mears isn't evil. He's the hero. look, it looks heroic there, doesn't it? Because it's Hutch from Starsky and Hutch. Anyway, so there's all that. Here we go. Then we go back to Mark Petrie's bedroom, and this is one of his masks. He's got these masks. Apparently this is, I think it's a ghoul, he says, I think. And so looking at all this stuff, there he goes, Frankenstein posters and his various horror paraphernalia. Anyway, so they've got to go home now. It didn't show them practicing, but they've got to head back home now. And this is Ned and Mike. They're arriving at the Marston house with the crate. Salem's Lot, The Shining, Pet Cemetery, and Insomnia are my tops. The drawing of the three used to be in there. Oh, well, very good. Insomnia, is that a Stephen King book? No, is that what that film was based on? You know, with Al Pacino? I don't know. As I said, I'm not a huge Stephen King fan. I like the films that are based on his books. But I think his books go on a little bit. Oh, I've also read some of his shorter, like his shorter novellas, his Richard Bachman ones. I've read Running Man and is it The Long Walk and Thinner. I've read that as well. They were quite good because they didn't fight about. They just got on with it. They weren't like big, massive, thick books, you know, where you had to know every single detail of every character's life. Anyway, Ned and Mike are back at the Marston house and to get the crate off the truck and get it down into the cellar. It doesn't show us how they do that, but they do it. And it's still freezing, so they've got to like cover up, push it like that. But they get it out, and somehow they get it down into the cellar, but it doesn't show us. Because we cut away to Ralphie, that's Ralphie, and that's Danny Glick, cutting through the woods, and they hear an owl, and they get, Ralphie gets scared, and then Danny falls over out of view, and then Danny gets got by a black figure, as we'll see. Here we go, we're going to see it now. He gets some wind appears. Weird stuff like that happens in this film. Is it supernatural or just a coincidence? I don't know. What's that? Oh, so it wasn't. Insomnia wasn't based on that Stephen King book, right? Okay. Okie dokie. Anyway, this is Danny about to get, Ralphie about to get got by, we presume it's Straker, because, well, we know it is. But we just see this black figure emerge. Come on, get on with it. Before I get a copyright strike. There we go. So, and I presume he kills him because he's either killed him or he's, anaesthetised him or something. We don't know. Anyway, they've got the crate. Ned and what's his face? Mike. I've got the crate down into the cellar. Didn't show us how they managed that. If it's so heavy, but they did. And Ned says he wants to open it. He wants to know what's inside there. And so he goes back up for a crowbar, or a pry bar, as you'd say. I think over there, but we call them crowbars. I don't know why. I don't know they've got to do with crows. I've no idea. But anyway, so he's going to open it. So he goes to get that. Meanwhile, Mike comes across a couple of rats. See, I've gone too far again. All right, anyway, comes down and they're about to start prying open this crate, and they hear noises from upstairs. And you think, oh, is it Straker back? But apparently he's not. So it must be ghosts or something, because there's nobody else in the house, as far as we know. They hear footsteps and doors opening and stuff like that. And so they get scared and run away. Drops his crowbar and they leg it upstairs out of the cellar. But they've left the chains and the padlocks. They're supposed to padlock the cellar up when they left. But it says just throw it in and the keys as well, so they do that. So they haven't followed their instructions very well, have they? But never mind. What do you expect for 50 bucks? Anyway, this is back at Cully. He's having another beer. Drinks a lot, doesn't he? He's waiting to go in to interrupt Larry and Bonnie. There he is with his shotgun. Danny comes stumbling out of the woods, and his mother and father find him. So, where's Ralphie? So Ralphie's gone missing. Danny's, ill. What's happening here? Hang on, I'm gonna have to go a bit further. What we're gonna see? Is this I don't know. Oh, it's them bringing the truck back. I tell you, I've just finished watching this. Leaving the truck there, so they're heading back, and he's looking. He calls for his dog, but the dog doesn't answer, so he heads off home. Wish I could remember what that dog was called. Never mind. The fella that works with him's called Royal, but what's his dog called? Can't remember. Anyway, right. So Straker comes back. There we go. He arrives back. I think he notes that the cellar door's not been padlocked, but he's coming and he's getting something out of the trunk. We call it a boot, but it's the trunk, and it's young Ralphie Glick, all wrapped up in a bin liner. So he takes him down into the cellar. Here we go. And here we see what's left of the crate. So I think Mr. Barlow must have just exploded out of it, I thought his coffin was supposed to be in there. Or maybe it was, I don't know. But it looks like he's exploded out of the crate, doesn't it? And Straker's like looking around thinking, what the bloody hell's happened here? Anyway, he puts Ralphie down on this stone like a sacrificial altar. What's that doing there? Did they bring it with them? Was it already there? I don't know. But young Ralphie's there, and he unwraps him. I'm going to show it. Here we go. There he is. I don't know if he's dead or not, or if he's just, maybe used a bit of ether on him or something, not the call it, chloroform. I don't know. But he's not going to be alive for much longer. Right, so Cullen is sneaking through his house with his shotgun. There you go. Kiss me, somebody says, from the other side of this door. Then Cullen bursts in. And here we go. Getting ready. And he's pointing his shotgun at Larry Crockett, because Bonnie says he burst in and forced himself. He was going to, the R word me. So she's not very nice, is she? But I suppose she's scared. She wasn't expecting him back. So, he's threatening to shoot both of them. But then he says to Larry, come on, let's talk about this man to man. And then he mentions his shorts. He says, they're nice shorts. Where did you get them from? He says, Boston. And I got the feeling that that's an ad-lib. I don't know if it is or not, but it had that feel to it. And then he says, when he's done with him, he's coming back for her. There we go. Stay right there, puss. So him and there we go. They have a little chat, and he says, "Put the gun in front of your face," and he pulls the trigger, and there's no shells in it, but he runs off, terrified. I'd have weed myself, to be honest. But this is when we get his first inkling. No, see, we're not going to see it. I'll miss it. I'll bloody miss it. We're going to get his first inkling of Mr. Barlow in a moment when he runs off. See, gone too far. See, I'll just play it, see what happens. Click, click. Oh, for crying out loud. There you go. I think, oh, crikey, and he runs out. Got to be careful here with the... Make sure we're still streaming. Yeah, we are. Anyway, runs out. Does Larry? Then we get his first little glimpse of Mr. Barlow. Here we go. Comes running out in a grainy, a grainy image. I don't know why. Maybe didn't have the lighting quite right. There you go. Comes running out, and did his first, jump scare of the film. Clawed Hand appears, whoever he is, who's Clawed Hand. There you go. So that's his first glimpse of Mr. Barlow. And then Cullen goes in and beats his wife. Meanwhile, Ben and Susan are back at the lake. They like it there, don't they? Twice they've been there now. And while they're talking and doing a bit of smooching, they hear some cars arrive. They hear engines and car doors opening and all that palaver. So they go and check, see what's happening. And they find that Larry Crockett's there. I presume it's his car. There we go. There he is, just sitting in his car, in his flashy underpants that he got from Boston. And he's dead. Ben goes to check on him. There we go. He just falls forward onto the steering wheel. Beep, all that. Here we come to another cool scene. Ralphie's visit to Danny in the hospital. No, Danny's in his bedroom. He's not in hospital yet, is he? He's in his bedroom. And here we go. Here's the famous window, and Danny's floating up towards it. There you can see him. So I don't think Ralphie talks. Danny talks when he's a vampire. Spoilers. But I don't think Ralphie says anything. He's just, a good creepy little child vampire. Anyway, there he is floating outside. Ooh, getting a numb bum. There he is floating outside, tapping on the window. This is one of the scenes that people talk about most, and it's the creepiest scene, or one of them, in the film. So Danny opens the window, and Ralphie floats in, and he actually does this twice. Yeah, Ralphie floats in. It's cool. It's done backwards, isn't it? It's a reverse shot. So obviously they pulled him out of the window with all the smoke billowing off him, and then they just play it in reverse, don't they? So the smoke sort of goes back into him in like a spooky, supernatural way. But here he is, look, creepy little vampire kid. Creepy AF. That's what he is. Danny, so he's done for. He's not dead yet. He's not dead yet, but he's not got long for this world. Anyway, they've called Parkins Gillespie, Constable Gillespie. He's come out, and they're taking the body away, Larry Crockett's body away, and he's explaining that he thought he had two cars, and then somebody got out of one car and then into the other, but he's not sure. He's not sure. So Parkins says, don't leave town. He says, I'm not doing. So that's that. So he takes Susan home, and then obviously Bill's not happy with what's gone on because everybody knows they're at the lake, and he says, you could have been, more discreet. But, I just said, shut up, I'm a grown man. Your daughter's a grown woman. Do what we bloody well like. That's what I just said. I wanted to have gone, yes, sir. Right, so, yes, so they've got Danny in hospital now. I think they found him. Yeah, he said to Bill said to Ben that he had to go to hospital because, the Glick boy's in hospital. Danny Glick is in hospital. So he's got to go see to him. So here he is going to speak to Danny's parents. That's James Mason's wife. But anyway. And he doesn't know what's the matter, has he had any, conditions? And he said, no, he's a normal kid, so they don't know what's up with him. Turns out, they're calling it pernicious anemia, which is I think it's like too many white blood cells, not enough red blood cells in your blood. Anyway, they've got people out looking for Ralphie Glick, who's still missing. And Ben sees a bit of black cloth on a twig, and Parkins collects it. And Ben says, he always wears a black suit. Straker. So Straker's immediately suspect, but we know he did it anyway. Anyway, next time we see him, he's there, not in a black suit. And I wonder what's in this crate, this little box. As he opens it up and has a look inside, there we go, has a little smile. Hey, I wonder what that is. I don't know. But somebody comes in and he closes it immediately, as though he doesn't want them to see what it is. There we go, Perkin, whatever it's called. Gillespie comes in. There you go. Don't want him to see what's in there. I wonder what it is. I bet it's whatever were in the suitcase in Pulp Fiction. That's what's in there. That's what I reckon. Anyway, Gillespie's asking him if they do a bit of small talk, you're ready to open and all that. And he goes, nearly, not quite. And then he asks about the black suit that he usually wears. He says, I've got 2 black suits. They're up at the house. Parkins, whatever the bloody hell they call it, Gillespie says he wants to see those suits. And says, what, for any reason? He says, yes, some reason. So he says, I'll bring them tomorrow. They need to be cleaned anyway. So that fair enough, I'll see you tomorrow. Then he says, ciao. And he says, pardon? He says it's an Italian word meaning goodbye. He said, didn't know you're Italian. He says, I'm not. The word is. You learn something every day. Right, so anyway, that's the end of that scene. Right, so Gillespie gets on the blower to the FBI, wanting information on Ben Mears, Straker and Barlow, who nobody's seen Barlow yet, apart from Larry Crockett's seen Barlow, hasn't he? And we presume Ralphie Glick's, Ralphie Glick must have seen Barlow, because he's a vampire now. Anyway, he's on the phone to FBI, wants information about Ben Mears and Straker and Barlow, and he gives them, how they spell them, and he's got an 8-ball there. I just noticed that. What's that there for? I've no idea. So he wants that information. Then we go to, this is, it's obviously Ben, but who's he talking to? I can't remember. I think he's talking to Bill. Trying to work out in his own mind, why these things are happening since he's arrived and since Straker's arrived. And I think he's trying to, continue his theory that the Marston house attracts evil people. Anyway, we cut to Danny Glick in hospital, strapped up to it. Obviously, he's getting blood pumped into him because, he hasn't got much left in him. And Ralphie pays another visit. And so in he comes through the window. Yeah, we go. It's another cool scene. I'd say it's good how they've done it. They do it on it's on like a boom crane. It's like on a dolly, on a crane. So he's sitting on that rather than them being on wires, and so they do that. And you actually see it a little bit later on with Danny Glick. You can see it, between his legs, this boom crane. They painted that out digitally, wouldn't they, these days? But back then they couldn't do that. Anyway, so in he comes, and this is all, let's say, all in reverse. So it's all really well done. the kid that's playing Ralphie Dick has got some good expressions and good vampire scariness. And he does a little and bites him. Are you ready? Come on, off you go. Get biting. When he's ready, here we go. So obviously all that were filmed in reverse. So he started off, on his neck biting, and then he lifted up and floated out the window, and they just played it backwards. It's all very well done. It's all very well done. Right, Straker's taking his suits to Gillespie. So off he goes. Shows him getting in the car, driving off, heading into town. This is the days, when films could take their time. These days, they're just showing him going into the office, Thought, we don't need to see him driving into town, but it all adds, atmosphere and stuff, doesn't it? So he shows him driving into town, reversing back into his parking area by his store. There you go. So it's like a good 2 or 3 minutes it takes him to get there. I suppose it's filling time, isn't it? But anyway, so he takes the suits and he says, it's going to crime lab in Bangor, FBI in Bangor, which is in New England. It's also in Wales. There's a town called Bangor in Wales. But anyway, so they're gonna, he says they'll get it back in a couple of days. He says I expect them to be cleaned and pressed. So yeah, fair enough. And he asks, why does he want his suits? And he comes to the conclusion it's about the missing boy, because he's a stranger in town and a little bit odd, and so he understands. So there you go. And Gillespie tells me, don't plan on leaving town. He's sticking around. He says, I fully intend to. So because he's opening the store soon, and I think that might be, more or less next. Or I could be wrong. Oh, yes. For some reason, I think this is a little bit early in to show this. I don't know, but Cullen Sawyer and Bonnie have got their truck. Let's even go back a bit. Oh, for God's sake, it's not going to do it, is it? They're leaving town for some reason. He's got his pickup truck. I don't know why he's using that when he's got a big, massive bloody rig, but he could get his entire house's belongings in there. Here we go. Looks like they're leaving town for some reason, and we see Bonnie with a big bruise on her face. So, victim of domestic abuse. But, some people might say she had it coming, but I wouldn't. Violence never solves anything. Straker puts his sign out saying opening soon. But, why is Cullen Sawyer leaving town now? Because other people start leaving and others get turned into vampires. But why is Cullen... Does he know something? I don't know. Or is he just leaving with the wife, because to get her away from... Well, he probably knows that Larry Crockett's dead, I suppose. I don't know. But they're going anyway. They're leaving town. This is Ben sitting at his desk. Oh, and he goes to see Susan at the local diner. And she tells him that she's going to Boston for a job interview. And she'll be gone for a couple of days. And she wants him to go with her. But she says he wants to stay for Danny Glick's funeral. Oh, I've missed a bit, haven't I? I've missed a bit of the stupid nurse. Hang on, see if I can find it. Here we go. This nurse was quite pretty, to be honest, but she comes in and then screams for some reason. She's not a very well trained nurse, is she? She comes in, sees Danny Glick there. I mean, he's not exactly, he's just ligged there, isn't he? And she screams, ah! That's training for you, isn't it? Hey, never mind. So Danny's dead. So where were we? Right, so he wants to stay for Danny Glick's funeral. He says, why? You didn't know him. He says, well, I just feel like I need to. Because he's morbid. Anyway, so she's going out of town for a couple of days, so she'll be back in a couple of days. Right, the funeral. See, we're getting near the end of the first half now. You know, when it were in 2 parts originally aired, we're getting near the end of that now. Danny Glick's funeral. His mother, you know, faints. As the you know, there she goes. She swoons as the coffin is lowered into the hole. But then everybody, you know, all drive away, and then it's Mike Ryerson's time to fill in the hole. Doing it by himself, it'll take him a while, wouldn't it? You'd think he'd have a little digger. I thought they had little diggers to do this sort of stuff, but not then. So he starts shoveling the earth into the grave, and then he just stands there. I think the wind picks up a bit, and you know, the clouds form and stuff like that. They're arranging to have dinner again. That's all they seem to do. Here we go. And he gets the urge to just stand by the edge of the grave, just staring at the coffin. And we presume Danny's inside it with his eyes wide open, staring through the coffin lid. You know, even though he can't see him, he's influencing Mike Ryerson psychically or something like that. And then Mike just jumps into the grave. There we go. Jumps in, opens it up. And we see Danny Glick with his eyes open. There we go. Glowing. Apparently they had these glowing contact lenses that they used. They could only wear them for like 15 minutes at a time, and then they had to take them out and rest the eyes for 30 minutes before using them again. Anyway, he's lying there with his eyes open, and then he sits up. Oh, for God's sake. There we go. Sits up and bites him, and that's how it ends. There you go. With a zoom in, and then it fade out. And then you'd have got the credits, and then you tune in, you know, tomorrow night for the thrilling conclusion. But then it starts up again. Right, so what's next? What happens next? This is he's on the. I think he's on the phone to Susan there. I think you know, she's in Boston. Remember, Eva, me and names. Eva tells him that Ned Tebbets is out for blood, so to speak. Wants to beat him up because she says, you know, seems like a nice fella. She don't want to see him get hurt. So he says, okay. Mark's doing some painting of his models, and his dad comes in a minute. His mother and father are talking about what's happened with Danny and Ralphie Glick, and she'd said, you know, they were on the way home from seeing him, and you know, apparently at the funeral he like keeps his feelings in check. Anyway, so his dad goes and talks to him and asks him, you know, why are you into all this spooky stuff? And he says, I don't know, I just am. And then he shows us that he can escape from handcuffs and ropes, you know. He says, I can escape from any knot. So, you know, we see that later on. That's a bit of foreshadowing. He's calling Starsky in. Something's fishy in this town. Yeah, it is. Something is amiss. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the constable's office. I forgot his name now. I can't remember. Never mind. He was just on the phone to the FBI, or they'd just phoned them with information about Ben Mears and Straker and Barlow. And basically, there's, you know, it's a nothing burger scene. There's no information. You know, they're all squeaky clean, and there's no connection between them. So, but Gillespie thinks there is, but there isn't. Apart from the Marston house, that's the only connection that they've got. Anyway, so there we go. This is the fella in the background. He's just watching all the time. I don't know if let's go back a little bit. Yeah, I've gone too far again. This fella's in the back, just staring at camera all the time. We see him in every shot. Anyway, there we go. Mike Ryerson appears as Ben and Jason are having dinner again. Mike Ryerson appears, falls onto the table. He's not well. And he says he's sick. And he said first his dog died, and then there was a funeral, and then he just fell asleep up on Harmony Hill, which is the cemetery. He fell asleep and he had dreams, and then he woke up and doesn't remember what's happened. He remembers dreaming about laughing and somebody coming through the window. He let them in and all that. So he's still staring in the back, watching us. And is it Weasel Phillips? I don't know, because he's always blurred. You don't know. Is it Weasel Phillips keeping an eye on Ben as he was instructed to do, or is it just an extra staring at the camera, watching what's going on, or is it filmed in a an active restaurant where they've got somebody in the background, that doesn't realise, they're just watching them filming? I don't know. I'm going to say it's Weasel Phillips keeping an eye on Ben. Anyway, Jason says to Mike, I want you to come and stay at my house tonight so I can keep an eye on him. That's him telling him that he opened the window. So that's what he does. Right, so anyway, that night, Mark is asleep in his bed, and he wakes up, and Danny Glick pays him a visit. There he is, he arrives, look. There's Wolfman poster there, and I'm not sure who that is there. I've tried to look, and I can't make out who it is. I can't make out what that's a picture of. Anyway, answers on a postcard. Anyway, here we go. Danny's arriving, look. And he talks. He says, Mark, let me in. Let me in. He says, not by the hair on my chinny chin. So he gets a cross from one of his toy things. It's a graveyard diorama that he's got. And he takes a plastic cross off and holds it out and says, no, go away. And Danny's like, and floats back into the mist. But as you can see there, that's the boom crane that he's sitting on as he goes back. There you go, you can see that. So, it was supposed to be covered up by the mist, but it didn't quite work, did it? Never mind, it's still cool. And there's Frankenstein's monster there as well. So there we go. So anyway, he gets back. So anyway, he's all crying while this is happening, is Mark. And he gets back into bed with his crucifix, still clutching that, and then his dad comes in. And just as his dad comes in, he puts something on, and his dad's thinking, he's up to something, is that lad? If you know what I mean. But he said he had a nightmare, and but he'll be all right. Right, so Mike's at Jason's, and Jason notices he's got 2 puncture marks on his neck. We actually saw him in the restaurant. When you look round in the restaurant, we saw these 2 puncture marks. So we know he's been bitten. Well, we saw him get bitten, didn't we, by Danny Glick. So he's telling him that, if you need me for anything at all, call me and I'll come. It's just down the hall. I notices the window's open, and he closes it. Jason closes the window, closes and latches the window. So he leaves him. And then that night, he can hear laughing and talking and stuff coming from Mike Ryerson's room. And he's like, he knows what's going on, really, but he's too afraid to do anything about it. And then he goes to check on Mike, I think the next morning, or... Oh, no, it's still the middle of the night. He goes to check on Mike. And... or does he just... No, I think he might just go and call... He just goes and calls the boarding house. This is Eva Miller going to get Ben. I don't think he goes to check on Mike. I think he's too scared to. So he goes and calls Ben and asks Ben to come round. So it's like 3 in the morning or something like that. So that's why they're all bleary-eyed. David Soul plays a good bleary-eyed fella that's just woken up. He's all like, whoa, rubbing his face, like you do. So off he goes over to Jason's. and they go in, and he's got dressed, look. I'd have still been in my pyjamas, but, you know. He's got dressed, and he's noticing that the window's open, that he remembers closing it before he left the room, because we saw him do it. Anyway, they go and check on Mike. There we go. There's a single blood spot on his pyjams. And Ben checks he says, the marks on the neck, and he checks, and they've gone. The marks on the neck have disappeared. So, you know, they don't know what to do, and so they suspect what's going on. But they said, you know, if word of this gets out, you know, what's people going to think? They think we're going to be crazy. So Ben says, you know, let the machine take over. So they call, you know, Bill Norton, and they call the police, you know, Constable Gillespie. And they come out, and, you know, they're going to deal with Mike Ryerson, but they want to talk to Bill afterwards. There we go. Gillespie says to me, as he wants him to speak at the, you know, the coroner's hearing or whatever, he says, yeah, I'll be there. So they're going to talk to Bill and try and explain to him that they think vampires have arrived in Salem's lot, and he don't believe them, obviously. So he goes back to the boarding house, and he says he's going to have a cup of coffee and then go to bed. That's the last thing you want to do, isn't it? Have a cup of coffee and then go to bed. Never mind. But then Eva Miller tells him that you'll miss the grand opening. It's the grand opening of the thingamabob, the antique shop, Straker and Barlow's Antiques. And here we go. So everybody's having a look round. Here's Mark and his mother. She says, your father would like this. I don't know what it is, but it's bloody awful. But it's too expensive. She can't afford it. And Mr. Barlow, Straker says, you know, I can hold it for the end of the week with no obligation. So she said, oh, thank you. She's not going to buy it. Yeah. They'll be dead anyway for so long, but never mind. Anyway, as they're leaving, Ben comes in, and there's a kind of exchange of glance. Don't know why. Maybe it's a bit of, you know, foreshadowing that they're going to know each other, you know, or maybe a bit of a connection between them that they're going to have. But obviously, this is their first meeting, passing. So he's having a look round, and starts talking to Straker. And he starts talking about his aunt that used to, you know, work up at the Marston house. And he tells him he's writing a book about it. And Straker says, oh, well, you know, you have to come and visit. And he tells him his theory that it's an evil house. And, you know, he doesn't really believe him, you know. But then he says, you know, talk about Mr. Barlow. He says, oh, you have to come, Mr. Barlow, you'll like Mr. Barlow, Mr. Barlow will like you, or whatever, you know. So there we go. Anyway, so he goes back to Eva Miller's, and then he gets beaten up by Ned Tebbits. Here we go. He's just putting his stuff. Good job he didn't just take his kecks off, innit? Starts walking about in his undie-plugs. But it don't matter, because there he is. Gives him a whack, and then he calls him a snake for stealing my girl, and then beats him up. And so Ben ends up in the hospital. There we go. He's got a slight concussion, but no bones broken. Ned Tebbits is in jail. So they'll not make that mistake again. So they have a little chat about the vampires as well. He says, I don't believe it, and nobody else will. Ben says he wants a crucifix. So I says, fair enough. Fair enough. And he asked him if any more people have come in, you know, with like symptoms of vampirism. But he says, no, there is nobody. But it soon starts happening. Meanwhile, Jason is doing a bit of research. He's got a book there, Frankenstein. I don't know what he's researching Frankenstein for. I was supposed to be researching vampires. But he's got this book here. It's about the legend and world of vampires, it's called. But he's got his crucifix there. And he hears a noise from upstairs. Footsteps and stuff like that. So I'd have just left the house, personally. I would. But he goes upstairs. And goes into the guest room, I suppose it is, and we see Mike Ryerson sitting there, and another classic scene. There he is. Hang on, there he is, sitting there in the rocking chair, and Jason starts rocking as well along with him, and then he gets up. There we go, kind of goofily. Saying, look at me, teacher. And he's giving it all, sticking his tongue out for some reason. He's standing like that, doing his Mick Jagger pose, and keeps telling him to look, and says no, and he gets the crucifix up. There we go. Let's get rid of that subtitle. There we go. Gets the crucifix up, and he revokes his invitation. See, I've gone too far already now. He revokes his invitation, and he says, "You will sleep with the dead," and goes out through the window, and like pushes him out with the cross. It's like another cool scene. It's like opposing magnets sort of thing, isn't it? That pushes him out the window. So the local glazier will be busy for a bit, won't he? As we'll see in a short while. A few windows get broken in this. But then he starts having a heart attack. There we go. So he ends up in the hospital. Then we cut to the jail, and Ned Tebbits is in jail, and we're coming up for our second cool jump scare, which still freaks me out to this day. People say, is it Reginalda as Barlow? Yes, Reginalda as Barlow. People say, it's not as good as Nosferatu, Max Schreck's Nosferatu, but I think it's still pretty amazing makeup. But anyway, he's in jail, and he is frittering about. Did he arrive as a bat? I don't know. Maybe he did. And anyway, he looks up and sees, shadows moving about, and he's frittering about. And then we see the jail. It just opens the cell door just by brushing against the lock. There we go. King. There we go. And then it's like, what's going on here? And he rubs his eyes. Are you ready? Here it comes. Here it comes. Scary. There we go. There we go. What's happened to his ear there? Somebody taking a bite out of his ear. Looks like it, doesn't it? So there we go. It says, first look at Kurt Barlow. Looks nothing like I've described in the book. In the book, he was supposed to look more like Dracula in the book. With black hair and all that, and quite distinguished looking. And he could talk, But they've gone, he's a monster in this, isn't he? They've gone the Nosferatu route. Which is fine by me. One of the great well, I know it's for TV, but I still call it a cinematic monster. Anyway. Next day at this is the Glick house, Marjorie collapses, and she says she's been having dreams about Danny coming to talk to her and saying, Mummy, let me in, and all that. So anyway, she ends up in hospital, and she passes away. Susan's back from Boston. Ben's just paying for his medical expenses, because it's America, the only country in the world where you have to go and pay for your medical expenses. Anyway, never mind. So just paying for that, and she's telling all this stuff's happened. Ned Tebbits is dead. Marjorie Glick's, I think she's dead, maybe, I don't know, or she's in hospital or whatever. Who else? She says Jason's in hospital. He's had a heart attack, but he's stable. So Ben goes to see Jason, and we see him hooked up to the machinery. I think that's the last time we see Jason. We think, is he safe? I don't know. We presume he's going to be all right. I don't know. Probably not, actually, because they set fire to the town, don't they? They burn the town down at the end. But so presuming Jason dies a hideous death, being burned alive when the town goes up in flames. Doesn't show it, but it says the flames are heading towards town. Anyway, so then Ben's decided he's got to do something about these vampires, these MFing vampires. So he tells Susan she's got to get hawthorn and put it around the house. They don't mention garlic, but hawthorn's got to go around. He must have seen, which one was it? Was it Satanic Rites of Dracula, where it's hawthorn that kills Dracula? I think it's Satanic Rites. Either Dracula AD 1972 or Satanic Rites, I can't remember. One of the Hammer films, where they use hawthorn. Anyway, because that's what Jesus' crown of thorns were made of. So that's why it's good against vampires. So he tells her to do that. Bill tells him that Ned Tebbitt's body's disappeared from the morgue, and so he asks about Ben asks about Marjorie Glick and says she's still in the funeral home in Cumberland, so they're going to head over there. We've got another cool scene coming up. So they head off there. Oh, and then we go to the Petrie house, and Mark must have told his parents about Danny Glick's visit, and so they've called Father Callahan. I think I've actually missed a bit because Ben and Susan went to see Father Callahan to try and enlist his aid, but he doesn't want to know. So, but then next time we see Father Callahan's with the Petrie family, and they're trying to make out that because he's into monsters and stuff, that's why he had a vampire coming to visit him. It wasn't real. But then there's the talking. The whole house starts shaking, and you hear glass smashing all around the house, and then the kitchen window smashes in, and then this cloak comes in, and it's as they're watching, it starts moving, and it's straight, not straight, it's Barlow. Hang on, there we go. Is he coming? There you go. And he comes up and clatters their heads together. I think he's killed them instantly. But he grabs Mark, and then Straker appears, and Straker says the master is willing to release the boy if the priest will give himself to the master. So Father Callahan says yes, and tells Mark to run. So there you go. So Mark runs, and he keeps holding the cross up. See, I've gone too far. Father Callahan keeps holding the cross up because his faith's not enough, because he says, your faith against his faith. He tells him to throw the cross down, but he won't. He says, I'm a priest. And so Mr. Barlow just grabs the cross and just bends it. And that's, it's not doing it, is it? And that's the end of Father Callahan. There we go, throw away the cross. Apparently all the bits of Kurt Barlow, of Reginaldo's makeup, kept falling off. His teeth and his claws and stuff. And his contact lenses kept slipping and going all wonky angles, apparently. There we go. So he takes that. And that's the end of Father Callahan. So then we cut to the funeral parlour in Cumberland, where Marjorie Glick is waiting to be, I suppose, embalmed, I suppose. But they've arrived as Ben and Bill, and they're waiting for the sun to go down. Because Ben wants to prove to Bill, they want proof, that it's vampires. So that's what they're waiting for here. If they want a proof, you'd think they'd have a camera set up, wouldn't you? But they haven't. They could have had a Super 8 film or something like that, couldn't they? 1979. But anyway, they're waiting. Bill's gone to do something. I don't know what he's doing. Ben's making a cross out of a couple of them lollipop stick things. Them. He's making a crucifix out of a cross, not crucifix, a cross out of them, and he's reciting. I forgot what they call it now. the shadow of the valley of death. I shall fear no evil. That thing. I can't remember what it's called. He's reciting that, and as the sun goes down, it starts twitching under the sheet. Marjorie, and Ben's getting scared. He keeps calling to Bill. Bill. I bet sure we're still going actually, because I've been doing a lot of playing. And yes, we're all right. We're okay. And he keeps calling to Bill, and anyway, Marjorie sits up eventually. I think a hand comes out first. A hand comes out of the sheet, and I think she's there. She goes. She sits up, and she's asking where Danny is and all that. There we go, and she gets off the gurney or whatever it is. Well, that's not a very flattering pose, is it? And I think Bill comes in then and gets her with a scalpel, and we see that she's no bloodiness. Has she been embalmed already? I don't know, but she's... there we go. He grabs a scalpel up and does that. Nothing happens. And she chucks him across the room, and then Ben gets her with a cross. And she screams, and then it's a bit crap then. So that's a cool burning effect, and then she just backs up, and then just fades out. And I thought, oh, that was a bit rubbish. She just fades away. There you go. And then the equipment just falls over for no reason. So it's like pulled on strings. But it was 1979, so they to do what they could, I suppose. Nowadays she'd have like turned into smoke or something. They'd have done some cool effect, wouldn't they? But anyway, so she's gone. They've saved Marjorie Glick's soul. I don't know what happened to her body, but they've saved her soul, I suppose. Anyway, Bill can't believe it, and he's driving along. He says, I can't believe it, and all these lights are coming past, tooting their horns. He's obviously not paying much attention to the road. And Ben's like going, ah! So they head, I don't know where they're heading next. I think they're heading back home or something, or what's happening? I can't remember. They head back home, but Susan's not home. That's it. Oh no, she's home. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I think they decided they're going to leave town. I think that's what it is. It tells her that they've got to leave town. Her and her mother. But he says, try and leave town before sunset, but try and get as many people to go as you can. And then we see Susan going around the town, knocking on doors and ringing doorbells. And either, in my opinion, I think a lot of them have become vampires now. They've all been got, because they say earlier on the vampires it'll be a mathematical progression, 2 times 4 times 8, so like that. Or like 16, wouldn't it? I think that's what's happening. Some have probably left, but I think most of them have actually turned into vampires. So he's saying they've got to get out of town. And he's going to stay, and Bill's going to stay, and they're going to go to the Marston house and destroy Barlow, the main vampire. So we're seeing the towns, abandoned. Oh, and Ben goes to see Gillespie. Is this what we're seeing here now? But Gillespie's leaving. Oh, he goes to the office. The deputy's not well. He says he's been dreaming about, I don't know, maybe Ned Tebbits or Mike Rice, and I can't remember. One of them coming to visit him. But he says Gillespie's phoned in sick. First time he's ever done it in, so ever many years. So he goes over to Gillespie's house. He must have told him where Gillespie lives. But I think has he gone back to Eva Miller's first? No, Susan's gone to find Ben, I think. But Eva Miller, she's there, and she says she's been dreaming about Weasel coming to visit her. So obviously Weasel's being got now. He's a vampire. She's been dreaming about him coming to visit. So she's been bitten, obviously. So she's going to be a vampire soon. So I think, as I said, I think most of the town's probably succumbed to the vampire plague. There we go. So Susan leaves. And then I think we'll go to Ben and are we? Ben going to see. Or are we doing? Are we still with Susan? I think maybe we're still with Susan. I think Susan goes up to the Marston house. Yes, she does, and she encounters Mark Petrie because Mark Petrie had said to Barlow when he killed his parents. When Barlow killed Mark's parents, he said, "I'm gonna kill you," and Barlow went, and so Mark's gone to kill the vampire because. So Susan sees him clambering up a hillside and goes to investigate. There you go. She sees him there. There he is going through the underbrush, and she stops him. She goes to stop him. See, Mark's going into the gets into the cellar. There we go. Susan follows him. We see the inside of the Marston house proper now. There we go. It looks like my carpet's like that. Oh dear. I'm lying, it's not. It's worse. Anyway, she's inside, she's looking for Mark. And I don't know what they've got floating about. You can't really see it on here. On my Amazon version that I watch, it's in HD, and you can see there's all these little fine particles hanging in the air, and you think, I wonder what that is. Is it? I hope it's not asbestos, because they used to use stuff like that in olden days, didn't they? But it says all these fine particles hanging in the air in the Marston house. Anyway, she's looking for Mark. And she finds him eventually, but she's sneaking about. They're getting the money's worth for this set anyway. Basically, that's what they're doing here. As George Lucas would say, they're wasting film time on it, because they're that proud of the set that they've built. But it's a cool set, so why not? By the way, this set inspired. Essentially, this inspired the film Fright Night. If you look at the house in Fright Night, the original. With I forgot his name now. Sarandon. What's his first name now? It was Susan Sarandon's husband. Anyway, him as the vampire, his house. That inspired. This inspired that. So there you go. And it's got a similar scene in where they're shooting. The kill James Mason. That's similar to the killing of Sarandon's Jerry Dandridge. The killing of his familiar. Anyway, whatever. Susan finds Mark, and Mark's saying, "No, he's here. He's going to kill the vampire." But they both get caught by Straker. Susan first, and then Mark. As we'll see. There you go. And then he gets Susan first, and then he gets Mark, ties him up, and he says, "Where's Susan?" And says, "She's come here to meet the man she came to meet," or whatever. I don't know. Basically, he's feeding her to Barlow. I think that's the last time we see her now until the end of the film. So it's not a happy ending, really. But anyway, that's where he's telling him. So he's tied up Mark. Obviously, Mark's going to be another victim. But remember, Mark can escape from any knot, and he does. He does escape. There we go. He's doing his breathing to escape. Right, this is Ben. He's going to see Gillespie. Gillespie's leaving. So he's lucky, one of the lucky ones. He hasn't been bitten yet. And he gives, it says he's leaving. He says, "Yeah, I'm leaving, I'm going." And he gives Ben his gun, his pistol, his 6-shooter. So Ben's a bit miffed about that, because the only law in town's heading out, apart from the deputy who's, been bitten anyway. Mark's still escaping his bonds. Anyway, this is Bill is on the phone to home, and this is when we learn that Susan's disappeared. She's she's not gone back home, so they've got to go and find her. I think Ben thinks, oh, she must have gone to the Marston house. I don't know how they've worked that out, but anyway, so they go to the Marston house now. Oh no, they go to the church first, and he's got his little blue bottles. Where do they get these from? I don't know, but he's got his little blue bottles, fills them with holy water. So anyway, off they go to the Marston house. Anyway, they go up. Ben's all sweaty, look, because it is California. Hang on. There we go. And they're just about to go in, and there we go. Mark comes running out, and Ben tells him to go, and he says, "No." I said, "What were you running out for then?" And anyway, he tells him to go, but obviously he won't. So he tells them that Susan's in there somewhere. So they go in. Ben, they split up and look for clues. Bill hears something upstairs, so he's checking that out. Ben goes walking about downstairs. Mark comes back in a moment. Ben gets the pistol out, I think. I know he's got his holy water stuff, but he gets his pistol out in a minute. Bill hears a noise upstairs, so he goes upstairs and encounters, in a minute, Straker. There we go. He sees a door. Oh, there we go. See, I've gone too far already. Encounters Straker. Straker just walks out of this door. Bit reminiscent of Psycho. The door just opens and the bad guy's there. And just grabs him. That's a bit of a Hitchcock homage, when it's ready. Crying out loud. Oh, we got a little glimpse there of the particles and stuff. Doesn't show up well on this video, because this isn't HD. Come on, there you go, here he comes. And he grabs us, this is super strong. He grabs Bill, lifts him up off the floor, and impales him on some horns. There you go. Impales him on some horns. Apparently this wasn't in the American version. It might be now, I don't know, but when it was shown in Europe, we saw this, and it's on the Blu-ray and DVDs and stuff, obviously. But that's the end of Bill. He's being spiked, so at least he's not a vampire. So then Straker comes and just rips a balustrade, I don't know what they call them, a thing off the that, and starts coming down the stairs. So, Mark's arrived, by the way. So Ben shoots him repeatedly, but he's not dying. But luckily he dies, after being shot like 6 times. He's gone too far again. And there you go, he dies. And then for some reason he reaches out for nothing in particular. I think it's just for dramatic effect. And that's the end of Straker. So they've got to go looking for Susan now, and Mark says he's probably in the cellar. So they head to the cellar, and Mark goes running in, but the stairs have been sawn away, as you can see there. So he goes running in and falls. In the book, there were spikes there at the bottom. So if that had happened in the book, I think somebody did. Maybe that happened to Bill. I can't actually remember. Somebody did end up on the spikes in the book, but I can't remember who. But Mark just falls, and he's all right. So they find where Barlow's coffin is. It's behind this a padlocked door, this little hatch in the cellar. Hang on, get that Mark weight. There we go. Where are we? There we go. So they're looking round, and they find a little doorway that's padlocked. So Ben gets his holy water out, and he tries to open it, and then his butterfingers and drops it on the floor, and it all fizzes because it's unhallowed ground. So anyway, so he decides. I think were they going to melt the padlock with it? I don't know, but he just gets a hammer, starts whacking at the. There we go, whacking at the padlock. I don't know if you've ever tried hitting, doing this with it. I've tried this. hitting a padlock with a hammer, it's really, really hard to smash a padlock. Anyway, I'm seeing a lot of correlations to the Lost Boys that I hadn't noticed before this viewing. Well, yeah, they did the floating out the window thing, didn't they, in Lost Boys? But yeah, I suppose it's a film that's inspired by this. But anyway, smashes the padlock. As I said, it's really hard to do that. I've tried it before on my shed. The padlock got a bit rusted up a little bit, and I couldn't undo it anymore. You know, and so I thought, well, I'll just smash it off with a hammer like they do in the films. No, it didn't work. Anyway, let's say rather than the padlock breaking, all this had probably just come out of all this, just rip all the crumbling wood away, wouldn't it? But anyway, it gets it open. And so we go inside, find the coffin, and there's also like the townspeople snoozing, because it's still daytime, by the way. But the sun's going down. So anyway, they find the coffin, they drag it out, there's all the people snoozing. There's Danny Glick, and is that Marjorie, and other people. Oh, there's Ralphie. I think we see Ned Tebbits as well, and Mike Ryerson, I think. So they drag the coffin out. Here we go. Drag it out of there. And they open it up. There we go. They open it up. There he is, snoozing away. Old Reginald, who you may know from lots of things. I think he was in Battlestar Galactica, the 1978 one as well. He was on the Carry-On. He played in the casino. He played somebody operating one of the casino tables. But also in, I think he's been in Buck Rogers and loads of other stuff. What in Hounds of Dracula? I think he was in that as well. But anyway, there he is. Anyway, wakes up. He opens his eyes. There you go. Gets the Ben gets the stakes out, and there we go. Mark looks at him and he opens his eyes now, and ting, ah! So like hypnotising him. So Ben shoves him out of the way. And then he sits up. There's there we go. He sits up. There's Barlow, and Ben just like shoulder blocks him back down again and stakes him, shoves a stake in, and that's it basically. In the book, I think this happened in Eva Miller's boarding house, but in the film they had it happening in Death by Antlers. In here they had it in the Marston house, which makes more sense in my opinion. But in the background there, you can see the vampires awakening behind Mark there. Does it show you? So there, they're awakening up and moving. Because their master is being killed. There they go, they're coming. Oh, there's Ned Tebbits. Is that Mike Ryerson as well? There, look. Anyway, so they closes the hatch and it puts a screwdriver in to lock it. Are we going to see? There we go. Are we going to see Barlow dissolving away, or have I missed it? Probably, knowing me. He's watching his Ben. There we go. Dissolves away into nothing, into a skeleton. So that's the end of Barlow. So they start pouring petrol round the house and they set fire to it. And there we go. The house is on fire. I think this footage is from another film, but I can't remember what. There's another YouTube video from Leighton Eversole called, The Making of Salem's Lot. I've put the link in the description. I think in that, I could be wrong, but I think in that they talk about this bird. I think it's footage from something else. I think, apart from one shot where it shows that one of the windows of the basement breaking. Anyway, so they get away, and Mark says the fire's, the wind's blowing towards town, so the town's going to burn down. And Ben says, it'll cleanse the town. So a lot of the vampires will be killed, but obviously not all of them. Some of them will get out. There you go. That's a shot of the basement window. You hear all the vampires screaming and stuff. So they drive out of town, and then we cut to back to Jamaica or Jamaica, whatever it is, in Guatemala. And we see them getting the, there we go, 2 years later. And we see them getting the holy water in the church. They're all sun-tanned, because they've been in Central America a while. Anyway, so they head back to where they're living. This is where he says, you know, we've got to go further, and Ben says, not yet. So they go back to where they were staying, this little shack where they were staying in, and we see somebody that's in the thumbnail. If you saw the thumbnail for this video, he goes into the back room. There's Ben, and we see why in a moment. There we go. We see Susan looking gorgeous. Old Bonnie Bedelia. She's lying there with her eyes shut, and she's talking to Ben, saying she's glad that she's found him. She's been searching for a long time, and then she opens her eyes. We're going to see it. We'll always be together. She opens her eyes. Oh God, we'll always be young. The vampires. Oh, for God's sake. Anyway, yeah, she says that, and then she opens her eyes. There you go. And so she wants to kiss Ben, so Ben goes to kiss her, but then he gets a stake out, and he stakes her. There you go, there's the stake, look. There you go. So he kills his love. He kills Susan. There you go. You can see the you see the fake teeth there, the line that the clip, the fake teeth. Sorry, I shouldn't be pointing things like that out, should I? So that's the end of Susan Norton. I mean, she made a very lovely vampire. I'd have given in. I'd have said, all right. All right. So that's it. So they move on, because he says there'll be more. There's more vampires out there. So they're moving on again. So it's that's not the end of the story. If you want to make up what happens next, because they're still on the run. So I wonder they didn't make it a pilot for a series, isn't it? You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? Pilot episode for a TV series. A bit like, the Incredible Hulk, they're moving from town to town and new adventures every week with a vampire catching up to them. But anyway, they don't. So they move on, and as they're going out, the camera pans up through the trees, and we see the moon in the sky in a minute. There we go. And I think they're trying to do another Hitchcock homage. When Norman Bates's face has that skull in it for a moment. They try, and it looks really good. They try and do it here with Barlow's skull. Doesn't really quite work as well, because you're supposed to be able to see, the man in the moon, because it looks like a skull-like pattern, isn't it, on the moon? But in this, they just overlay it. Look, it doesn't look that good, does it really? But never mind. And that's it. Then we go to the credits. Then we go to the credits, and that's it. 3 hours. 3 hours that went on for. But it's excellent. It's one of my favourite things. I watch it regularly. As I said, I bought it on Amazon Prime Video. I've got the DVD somewhere as well. But I watch it on Prime Video quite a lot, because it's super ace, and I love it. Like I say, the best. It's my opinion, the best TV horror thing I've ever seen. Miles better than It. The Tim Curry It, which came out about 11 years later. Miles better than that. This is the best. Tobe Hooper at his best, in my opinion. Even with TV restrictions, they did a really good job. But anyway, that's it for Salem's Lot. Then they did Return to Salem's Lot, didn't they? Starring, I forgot his name, Michael, somebody or other. Anyway, that was rubbish. I saw that one once. So anyway, so right, we'll leave it there. An excellent movie, 3 hour movie. But they are these days, aren't they? Movies, you know, go see them at the pictures and they're 3 hours long. So, you know, it's not uncommon, is it, to watch a 3-hour film? But it was back then, even though it was in 2 parts. But yeah, it's really good. Hang on, that would have or might have been an interesting show. Yeah, it did. Did you ever see the Fox TV Wheel? No, I haven't seen that one. No, I didn't see that one. I think I've heard of it though, but I don't think it ever got shown over here. I don't think. But I think I've heard of it. I haven't seen it. But anyway, right, I'm going to have to go now because what time is it? It's 5 to 11 at night here. So I've got to get ready for beddy buys because I'm getting on a bit. Plus I'm starving. I'm starving. I've got to have something to eat. But anyway, so there you go. Salem's Lot. Excellent bit of vampire, you know, classic vampire movie. Got one of the best vampires, you know, inspired by Nosferatu. But, you know, some great scenes. The kids at the windows. You know, Straker himself popping up in the jail. You know, great scenes. Marjorie Glick at the funeral home. James Mason spiking Bill Norton on the horns. Like I say, it's a rich treasure trove of horror, and they did it all for TV, and it were really good. Right, so we'll leave it there. So, thanks for watching. Thanks, Joshua, for all the chats. That's it. Really enjoyed it. So, thanks for taking part. And I'm going to go now. So, wherever you are, don't have nightmares. Look after each other. And until next time, I'll say thee.